You're listening to the Sticks and the Six podcast.
Oh, guys, our Maple Leafs, we finally have some positive news to talk about this week. And Morgan Rielly signed an 8-year extension worth $7.5 AAV. First off, Peter, you like this signing? And, what do you see from Morgan Rielly moving forward?
I really do like the signing for a number of reasons. One, specifically, you basically look at the market for defensemen and who signed what. Cale McCarr signed for 9. Seth Jones signed for 9.5. Charlie McAvoy signed for 9. 9.5, per year. You saw what Miro Heiskanen signed for. Morgan Rielly took a significant less amount of money, less than market value, to stay with the team. That, to me, shows that he's in it to win it, and it really isn't all about the money. So that's a good thing, number one. Number two, he easily could have got like 8.5 on the market if it was in that direction. The fact that he chose the less amount, I think maybe what saved him is maybe you're going the full term. Maybe he took maybe a bit of a pay cut because maybe if it was like a 5 or 6 year deal, maybe that cap hit may have been up or may have gone up a little bit more. And 3, just looking at the breakdown of his deal, the last 3 seasons in total salary, it's going to come out to $6 million. Sorry, the last 4 seasons, it comes out to $6 million. So in a team that's going to be in a cap crunch, it's going to be front loaded. It's 8, 10, 10, 8. 6 the last 4, plus a modified no trade clause in the 7th and 8th year. And that's going to take him to around the age of where he's going to be 34 or 35. That way, if the Maple Leafs do decide to move on from Morgan Rielly, obviously submits a list of 10 teams that, because it's a modified no trade clause, whether he wants, I can't remember if it's teams that he wants to make a trade to or doesn't want to make a trade to. Either way, it's a modified no trade clause. If in those 2 years they feel like it's over, they can easily move them. And $6 million at that point, if the cap is going to increase, is going to be a really good contract to move. So yeah, I really do think that this contract bodes well for the Maple Leafs. Maybe not so much right now because it is front loaded, but definitely when the years become more increasingly evident that maybe he could be on the decline, that I think is really key.
Alex, what are your thoughts on this deal?
I think it's a great deal. And, I've got one tweet to share for people who are maybe worried about how this money's going to affect the Leafs cap situation moving forward. Oh, excuse me. And it's from Kevin McGran. And it goes like this. Look at it this way. Rielly is at $5 million average annual value right now. He gets the $1.2 million that gets freed up with Phil Kessel dropping off after this season, plus the $1 million in cap. The $1 million the cap is going to go up in next year, plus a little bit more. The path was always there. Rielly wanted to stay. So when you really sit down and crunch the numbers, I think, I don't know where that little bit more that Kevin's referencing in the tweet comes from, but even if you ignore that and you just factor in the cap going up by $1 million and the Leafs not having to pay that $1.2 million to Phil Kessel anymore, Morgan Rielly's deal is going to increase his deal is going to increase towards the cap by $300,000, and we're talking about a guy who has been here since the very, very beginning. Well, very beginning in terms of where this team's at right now. I mean, When he was a rookie, the core was still Dion Phaneuf and Phil Kessel. And he was at a point where he was, for lack of a better term, kind of serving as a veteran to Matthews and Marner in their rookie seasons. He was wearing an A at age 22. This guy has been here ever since the start of this green light, when the Leafs got the green light to commence the rebuild and do it properly. He's been here throughout the entire thing. And I think just in the sense that none of us expected Rielly to come back, between where the market's at for free agents right now, free agent defensemen, I should say, and the fact that we watched Zach Hyman walk to the Edmonton Oilers in this past offseason, I think it's just a pleasant surprise that Morgan Rielly came back and that he took a hometown discount for it. And, you know, I think another important factor to consider is what losing Morgan Rielly would have done to the dressing room. I mean, I don't want to sit here and pretend like I know exactly what goes on in there, but from everything that I've heard, Morgan Rielly is a massive part of that room. And you saw the video of Sheldon Keefe announcing to the team at practice that Morgan was coming back, and everybody was super jacked up for him. Tavares was talking. Tavares, the captain of the team, said that he looks up to Morgan Rielly, who's younger than him, I'll mention. So you've got a 31-year-old or a 30-year-old captain looking up to a 27-year-old alternate. Austin Matthews said he couldn't be more excited that he's back. Everybody on the team had something good to say about Morgan Rielly coming back. And, you know, I still see people out there that are sitting here and saying, nope, this is a bad deal because look at what the cap ramifications are going to be 4 or 5 years from now. And to those people, I just say, shut up. Just enjoy the moment. Morgan Rielly wants to be in Toronto. If the Leafs are going to do anything over the next decade, he wants to be a part of it. And to me, that's enough, and that's a guy that I want to bring back. And we talk about how the Leafs are in a bit of a culture chase right now and how they're trying to establish this winning mindset, and you got to have as many people as possible to buy in. Imagine what this does for future contracts. To see someone like Morgan Rielly, who, like we've been saying, could have gotten $8.5, $9 million, whatever on the market, chose to take less than what he's probably worth right now and stay with the Leafs. Despite sitting through 5 first-round losses in a row, he wants to be a part of the solution. And I think that sets a great example for future negotiations and future guys to come through Toronto. So I am a big fan of the deal in many aspects.
I am so glad that you said that, you know, it sets an example for future contracts with this organization. And, you know, this is something I've talked about for well beyond, you know, before we started this podcast, was the Boston Bruins effect, where you've got guys who will buy into this idea that, you know, more money is not going to get you more success, even though at the end of the day, when you retire, it's all about the money. Okay. But you know, you've got the Pasternaks, you've got the Bergerons, you've got the Marchands, who have all taken team friendly deals. Chara over the years has taken team friendly deals. You know, maybe the one exception, and we talked about this, was Charlie McAvoy taking a massive deal, but that was the market for the defenseman at that time. Now you've got Morgan Rielly in Toronto saying, you know what, 7.5. And here's a guy who over his career has earned $30 million plus. So, I mean, when it comes to money, it's not something that he has to worry about. That being said, 8 years, 7.5, to the people that say that this is going to bring up cap ramifications in a few years, the cap is going to go up. There's, you know, 4 or 5 years, the cap is going to go up. You're talking about you know, we talked about in our first story of the night. This is a business that's all about money. The jersey logos, the helmet logos. Do you know how much money that's bringing in on a yearly basis? The new TV deal in the States. Do you know how much money that's bringing in? The fact that you've got a 30-second team in the league, you know, that raises banners for absolutely no reason. Do you know how much money that organization is going to bring in? The money's there. The cap is going to start climbing once they pay off all this debt from the COVID back to the already rich out of their mind owners. The cap is going to go up. In terms of Morgan Rielly, I mean, you guys said it. Like, he's been here since the Boston collapse. He's been here since, you know, Toronto hit rock bottom, and he's seen every little bit of why he doesn't want to be in a losing culture again. And he signed with Toronto because he can see that there's a solution here. And hopefully the core players do look at that and say, you know what, my next contract, I want to stay with Toronto, and I want to be a part of that as well. But just some food for thought. Here's a guy who, over his career with the Leafs, he's played 581 games with 310 points. Okay. He is 6th all time in the organization in points by a defenseman. He is 9th all time in games played by a defenseman, and he's 25th all time in games played by any position for the Toronto Maple Leafs. That goes to show you what commitment and durability he has had over his career. And for me, 7.5, I'm paying that all day for a guy like Morgan Rielly. And there have been times where I've criticized Morgan Rielly's ability to shoot the puck from the point and get it through and be effective in that area. That said, how many puck moving defensemen do you see skate like he does? And on top of that, I think after signing that contract, he had his best game against Detroit the other night.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm glad that you said that, because I was actually just going to bring up that since his 72-point season in 2018-19, his 2 seasons in between now and then have been a little bit below his standards. He hasn't looked quite the same. I think I'm not going to pretend to know what's going on with him medically, but I think that for a good portion of that, he was battling some sort of injury, because he did not look himself. And you don't just lose your ability, right?
No.
So he hasn't looked great over the past 2 seasons, but I do think that this year he has looked a lot better throughout these first couple of games. Mm-hmm. He's got the highest puck possession on the team, in my opinion. I think he's got the highest Corsi rating. In my opinion, that's not what I meant to say. I'm pretty sure he's got the highest Corsi rating on the team. And he's just looked a lot more sound defensively, and he's looked more mobile. The offense is still, like, you're right, Andrew. You brought up his, how there are some criticisms to be made about his ability to get pucks in the net from the point and all that. But I think if we're going to sit here and dissect all of Morgan Rielly's flaws, I don't see much of a point in it, because I think the good that he brings outweighs the bad by a mile. Mm-hmm. And, he's not immune to criticism, obviously, but there was just too many good things working in his favor to earn him that contract.
And you know what? I don't need a 70-point defenseman every year. Like, I think the way that he's been able to kind of learn some of the intangibles, it's the same with Austin Matthews. Like, we talk about how, you know what? He's not putting the puck in the net. Yeah, okay. Right now, he's not putting the puck in the net the way that he did last year. That being said, this team is 14th in the league in hits, and Matthews is among the top 6 or 7 on the team in hits. That to me shows that he's putting more into the game than just focusing on the offense and trying to be a bigger part to the entirety of what the organization needs to do to get the job done. When it comes to the playoffs, we've seen that the offense is going to struggle. They need to find ways to do all the extras, right? And I think for me, if Rielly puts up 50 points in a season and is willing to lay the body and block shots in the defensive zone, that's fine with me. That's worth $7.5 million.
I have no problem with that at all. And like you said too, yeah, I think I've been one of the biggest critics of him shooting the puck and his ability on the power play, but we're still, you see a bit of that, but you see a little bit more confidence in his game, in his movement, and everything that he's doing right now. So I think that's really big for him, considering the fact that, he is one of the leaders on this team. He has gone through a lot in the past. And I think right now he's setting that tone that, hey, I'm hoping this would go well if when Matthews and Marner needs their new contract, being like, hey, I'm in it for the long haul. I'm taking less. I would hope that it would set an example for future contracts as well, because this is the mentality, this is the leader, this is the kind of player that should be a Maple Leaf from here on out, and I hope everyone is following suit.
Yeah, and we see everybody criticize Nylander. Even to this day, they criticize Nylander. We don't want Rielly to be another Larry Murphy situation where, the fans and the media get on him so much that they push him out of town. Now you've got him locked up. Show a little bit of respect for a guy who's been there and a guy who faces the media each and every night. This is a guy who goes out and talks to the media after every single game and is one of the classiest people in terms of, what he has to say about the organization and what he has to say about his players, and taking responsibility for, mistakes that he might make on the ice as well.
Find me another player who will go to his first press conference of the season and say, "Welcome back, glad to see you all," to the reporters who are there to ask him questions. We read all these stories about players who get into it with the media and get into it with reporters, and something, most of the time, rightfully so. There are some stupid questions being asked out there, but for Rielly to just have that have that like instinct to thank the reporters for all, because it's not just the welcome back. You remember at the end of last season in their exit interviews, he thanked the media for their hard work throughout the season. And everything about him just screams class. So I couldn't be happier that he's back in Toronto long term, because I see him as a vital part of this team.